I'll come back. 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 I'll come back.
Hello and welcome to the Barcast, where the bar gets lower every single week. Your bartender for this evening will be a non-pencil.
Oh.
Enigmatic Otaku. Flamin' Warfer.
Combo breaker, ladies and gentlemen.
Ravage. Milk.
Why are we sex moaning? What the hell?
And I'm dying inside. This week, oh my gosh, we've got a very, very fun guest. We've had the chance to talk with him privately at BronyCon, as privately as you can with a camera. Ooh. But we have the wonderful George.
I don't know about terribly fun.
My
children think I'm unfun.
Oh.
The fun killer.
Well, we think you're fun. And before we jump too deep into this, we've always heard everyone say your name 10 different ways. In your opinion, in the way that you intended to make your name, how do you pronounce it?
George.
George. Perfect. Well, there's no Georg or anything like that. You've heard it here first. It's George.
No, but it's hilarious listening to people try to work their way around that.
Well, then we won't tell people to come here for the truth. But speaking of coming here for the truth, hello and welcome. If you've never tuned in before, we're a community-oriented podcast where you request a guest, and then we ask some questions for 2 hours. 100% of our proceeds go to horse rescue charities, but we'll talk about that more later on. We have drinking where this particular cast. If you hear anyone say, well, be sure to have a nice, healthy drink. We have a lot of questions that are out on Fanfiction, but we're also looking at stuff at Twitch, and if you want to see previous ones that we've had before, such as interviewing people on the show, be sure to check us out on places like iTunes, Google Play Music, and all the other places. The lovely non-Pencil is going to be watching the chat. Pencil, what are questions we want to ask your guest?
Well, this is one of those rare casts where we're actually going to try to keep it PG-13. So we're not going to ask questions about how many ping pong balls he can fit in his ass or stuff like that. So don't do that. We also will not ask about religion and politics like usual, or personal information such as their social security number and where they live, all that, blah, 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 blah. So play nice. I already see a really nice question in the chat that's not our usual question, so thank you guys. So just, yeah, play nice. This is kiddie pool time, so you don't have to be like, what's your favorite color? But don't be little shits.
So, without further ado, let's get into the actual interview questions.
We have a do?
Yes. So let's start with...
We had a do.
A do?
A done. Go ahead.
So, let's start with the very, very basics. Let's introduce you to those who may not know who you are. Who are you and what do you do in the fandom?
Hi, I'm George. I'm confused. I kind of wandered in here about 8 years ago, kind of by accident, because of my kid was watching first season on YouTube, and I'm looking over his shoulder, and he goes, "It's My Little Pony." I said, "No, it's not. I'm old enough that I've seen My Little Pony before. That's not My Little Pony." He goes, "Yeah, it is." And with that episode, I went and watched the rest of season 1 on YouTube, and I went, show that doesn't make your brains want to dribble out your ears. This is pretty good. Which was kind of a little surprise. Then I found Equestria Daily, and I was like, wow. People out there that like this, that aren't little children. And then I found Fanfiction, I was going, wow. They write stuff about this. And realized at this point, I had never been exposed to fanfiction before at all. My first foray off to the wide world. Mm-hmm. Stop me if you get bored. Anyway,
no, by all means, please.
So I'm browsing through the stories, and a question came up on one of the blogs that said, "What was the first story you read on Fanfiction?" My answer to that is, "You have to be kidding! I can't possibly remember that." But I'm reading through the stories, and I'm going, is horribly, horribly underrepresented. Got one of the coolest stories in there. The redemption arc and all that. And in the first season, she has an episode. I was really disappointed, and I was reading all these stories, and you know how you do when you read stories for a while, and you go, I can do better than that. So, wrote one. I posted it, which, you know, was this giant jump for me.
Right.
And, because, you know, literally, I've been writing science fiction fantasy novel now for 30 years, longer than most of you have been alive. And point where I'm going, I'm going to actually publish this on the site. Oh, well, nobody will ever see it. So I published it. I had like it. I was like, wow. That's like 20 times as many people who has ever read anything that I've ever written before. Liked it. That's an ego boost. So I got all the way done with that story, and I wrote another one, and people kept coming over and going, hey, that's interesting. Wow, you can write. I'm like going, isn't that terribly good? Until we get to this point, and I look behind me, and I go, what are all you people doing? It's like Monty Python's Life of Brian, where Brian is looking behind him at all of the people going, yes, save us. And he's going, people, go home. And I full sympathy for that. And, you know, I've worked my way up, and I've gotten better, thank God. Sometimes I go back and look at the first stuff that I've written and went, you know, there's really good reason why I'm writing for practice here. Just a second. And, you know, the more I write, the better I get.
And it's been going really successfully for you. Like, you're now 28th most followed on the site.
I am?
Yes, you are.
Okay, this is an ego thing.
Uh-huh.
You know, no matter what you say, no matter what writers say, writing is an ego thing. Everybody who says, no, I don't check on that kind of stuff, they're lying. Because last time I checked, I was like 30-something.
Yeah.
Which is you know, scarier than hell.
Oh, I understand. I recently went from 31 to 32, and I'm just like, oh, God. Well, okay, that's fine.
But there's all these 5-star authors on the site that I'm reading. I'm going, I will never be able to write like that ever. And one of the things I've played around with is trying to write like that. So I wrote the story in Skywriter's world, the Princess Cadence verse, more precious than silver or gold. The intention was to write that as Skywriter would have written it.
Mm-hmm.
Thought I did a fairly good job on that. I can't write like J.K. Rowling. I'm sorry. I just cannot physically write in that fashion. And can't write like monochromatic. I'm sorry. That's a whole another star above me. I can kind of get along with certain styles now, and it's good practice to write like that. Totally lost track of where we were going on this. What?
Oh, totally fair. Just
Are we still on the first question?
Yeah, yes, we are. We were getting to
Good
know.
Lord, please move on.
All right.
Next, please hit something else. Otherwise, I'll just sit there and hit her and talk, and people drop offline.
Well,
Yes,
the next.
get on with it.
Get on with it. All right.
Get on with it.
Well, you kind of already covered the first 3 actual interview questions, so we're going to go to the next one.
God.
Well, the show is now, Generation 4 is quote-unquote over. We have another movie coming, but on the whole, they aren't going to make another season of the television show. So,
Don't forget the comic book series.
And the comic book series, where do we, as a fandom, go from here, in your opinion?
Oh, I have noticed a substantial drop-off when people are reading my stuff. Because we've got a substantial drop-off on, like, Fanfiction site. Still we have at least, even if absolutely nothing else was done, we'd have another couple of years worth of activity at more or less this rate. Hell, it's going to take me 3 years to write everything I've got in the queue right now. Maybe 4. Sweetie Belle's Hogwarts exchange student I started it, 2 years ago? Writing on it 2 years from now. Or more.
Mm-hmm.
We're not really running out of things to write.
No.
People who are hanging around are still reading them. And then we have G5. Doing a really good job on keeping the lid over until it actually comes out.
Oh, I'll wait for the leaks to come out. They'll come out.
They're just wildly nuts off.
All right. Well, then, let me ask you our final actual interview question before we jump out to the thread. Who is best pony?
Luna. No question about it.
Luna?
You, sir, are a
Because
scholar.
she's threatened not just because she's threatened to throw nightmares at me for the next 100 years if I don't say that. There's absolutely nothing extortionist about this whatsoever. Please, may I have my other children back now?
She kept your children on the moon where they suffocated.
That's awful. Oh my god, Enigma. What the fuck?
This is bad. So speaking of bad, let's go out to the thread on Fanfiction. Our very first question comes from Short Skirts and Explosions, who needs no introduction here. He asks you, what doth life?
Okay, the author known for the longest possible stories has written the shortest possible question. Irony, thy name is Short Skirts. Is to see your enemies driven before you, to hear the lamentations of their women. That is the obvious answer. Real life or life in the fandom? I wonder, because they're different animals.
I would say life in general, not necessarily just life in the fandom.
And then you get, how are you structuring your life? Are you pointing, how do I want to live? I want to live my life so my children look back and go, yeah, Dad wasn't too terribly bad a guy. And grandchildren will look back and go, yeah, he's a little weird, but he was okay. And see, I lived across the street from my mother until 2 years ago when she passed away.
Oh, wow.
I lived my life so that Mom would never have to call me over and go, what did you do here? And that's a really good role. Live like your mother lives across the street. And
You make it sound like your life was a sitcom where everyone loves Georg.
You gotta realize, I am an introvert.
Uh-huh.
It's introvert. We have introverted children.
Also, Enigma, how did you just say his name?
Well, every time I look at his name, the way I always pronounce it in my head is Georg.
He literally told us to call him George. He literally told us this.
Like I said, though, it's fun to listen to people pronounce it.
I was like, jeez.
I'm pretty sure what he said was merely a suggestion.
I'm not allowed to swear at you, so I'm just gonna mute myself. It's gonna.
Our cat. Just to let you know, because I originally built a name over on mail because I needed a alternative ID to post politics on.
Right.
So I gave our cat an email address. I could post things on the internet without having it go back to me at work.
Makes sense to me.
When I posted my first story on Fanfiction, I was like, okay, we'll go from there. But actually, there is a George Felis who lives in South America who got to the address on Gmail first.
Oh.
George. So I went, okay, so that name's taken. I don't want to put numbers in there. What if I take the E out? Nobody had taken that one, so I did.
There you go. Easy enough.
Take out the E and it turns into Georg.
Whatever you want. Whatever floats your boat. Whatever turns your pancake.
Speaking of turning pancakes, we got a question out in the chat. It's not a good transition, but it's just like my writing. Not good at all. Question from the other guy is, are you curious?
Yes, I know. That's a play on Curious George. Thank you. You're so witty.
You probably heard that a million times.
No, just a couple. But in real life, yes, because that's one of my big things. I've read how to read. I've been just a monster reader because I'm desperately curious about what things are. It's one of the things that drove the English teachers nuts because I love to read and I hated to write. You know how in grade school when you start your class and they hand out all the books and you get your English book and it has a number of stories in it that you're going to be reading through the year, and the teacher lectures something on that. I have no idea what the teacher ever lectured on that day because I would open up the book and I'd start reading. And, class was over. Great. We go home. I'd finish reading the English book. We'd get back the next day. And it's like, okay, I've read it all. What do we do for the rest of the class? Because, I'm curious. I'm one of these people. I took apart my alarm clock. See what made it go tick, tick, tick. It quit going tick, tick, tick after I took it apart. So there's some downsides to being curious.
Fair enough. Now then, we've got questions from Seton. His first question for you is, what is your favorite meal, snack, or food stuff that's really unhealthy, but it's so good?
I have a cheater lunch. Because whenever I'm at work and I'm going out to one of the offices, grab something to eat on the way to, from, while I'm driving. And that cheater lunch is a Coke, a large Coke, a McChicken sandwich, and a small fries.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's I can order that with my eyes closed.
That's so innocent.
In McDonald's. And it is like, and it's the cheapest thing you can get at McDonald's that has nutritional value to it, and you can eat on the road.
All right,
it's an example. I'm not that terribly interesting a person.
Well, I mean, it's interesting still to kind of get inside your headspace and see what makes you tick, tick, tick.
Also, that's not true. Some people like to watch, videos of people eating sandwiches, and they find that fascinating.
It's
So, by comparison, you are a darn interesting dude.
It's true.
In percentile, I will put myself up below the bottom 5%.
Well, that's a start. Maybe by the end, we'll be able to convince you that you are at least in the top 50th.
And just for those of you who are academically challenged out there, I graduated in the top 2/3 of my class. So, both in high school and in college. I actually told that to a recruiter once when I was doing an interview. I told him I graduated in the top 2/3 of my class, and he went, "What? Top 2/3 of a percent?" I went, "No, top 2/3." I didn't get that one, by the way.
Aw. Well, next question.
There is hope for you, even if you have academic issues.
Yeah, that's a good message.
My English in college, oh good God. I'm sorry, but if my English teacher in college read the stuff I'm doing right now, she'd suspect I was replaced by a changeling.
Makes sense to me.
The stuff I wrote in college just stunk would be an overestimation of it. I don't know how people who really like English teach English.
I totally yeah. I agree with that. There's a lot that we can kind of dissect along with that. But
you have to be a little bit of a masochist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, masochists are the people who like music and teach elementary school music.
Fair.
I mean, they must go home and hit their thumb with a hammer repeatedly. I mean, just to clear the mind.
Next question is, what is the biggest or weirdest fear that you have?
I don't know. I'm not really a very, I told you I'm an introvert. I don't really have that much in the way of, I'm angry at this or I'm afraid of that. Or fear of failure, though, is a biggie. Oh,
See, that's like a
fear.
realistic, crippling, real fear. That is something a lot of people suffer from.
Like fear of getting up in front of a crowd and having a discussion. That is are terrified of that. I am just absolutely abject, petrified of getting out in front of a group and speaking. When I started,
I'm sorry, you cut off.
oh, never mind. Anyway, when I started, when I got out of college, that was it. That was the biggie. That was number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on my top 10 list.
Okay.
How far I've gone.
Yeah,
At Everfree Northwest this year, I did a panel where I got up in front and I did the introductory. So you haven't written a fan fiction before. What do you want to do with your fan fiction? How do you want to construct it? Type the TED Talk.
Right.
And I did that. I am so damn proud of myself.
Well, we're proud of you too, because I know how it feels to be, nervous about speaking in front of people. Heck, when I first started this podcast, I was terrified of doing panels and being in front of people, and well, now here we are.
That sure as heck changed, like a lot.
Everyone love me, please.
We love you.
Number 3.
But not in that way.
Oh. Why is bag milk the best milk?
Shoot, I don't know. I've been, next.
All right.
We had bag milk in college. So it's fine.
What is your one annoying habit? So something other people do that you get annoyed at, or something you do that annoys other people?
I'm distractible.
Distractible? How so?
Literally, it's difficult for me to keep on target for doing certain things, and for writing too. Because there's always, I need to go sharpen this pencil. Oh, I need to go put my shoes out for tomorrow. Oh, maybe I should go down to the store and buy a dozen eggs so that I can have eggs for this. There's always something else going on.
Totally.
It's really tough for me to lock down on one thing and do it. Post-it notes are a good help on that. Everything you need to do as you're going along.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
When you do it, you mark it off the Post-it note, because that way you do two things. I am doing this. I should be doing this. I'm going to write that down on a Post-it note. Okay, I can keep doing this now. When you have actually completed something, you mark it off whatever you have on the Post-it note. End up with a stack of Post-it notes with the crap that you haven't done yet.
I know I couldn't live or breathe without the to-do list that I make for myself, so it makes sense to me.
Is a god, yes.
Next question, I'm going to tweak just a little bit. What's the theme song for your love life? Oh.
Every so often. Great.
Good job. Good job.
I love it.
Married is going from if to when, which is a really nice transition. Leave it at that and go from there.
Yeah,
totally
that's fair.
Number six. Do you watch anime by chance? If so, what are some of your favorites?
Studio Ghibli. I am sorry, but he is a god in the animation industry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually holding on to in my right hand right now Kiki's Delivery Service.
Oh yeah.
I've watched on and off just about everything that he's done, and they're all. I said I was distractible. That's one of those things where I will sit there and I will watch it, and if the children come up while I'm watching it and say, "I need you to do this," it's like, "Poke, poke, poke, go away! Watching that television show. Precious, oh my precious.
Yeah, I'm especially just turn into Gollum about Miyazaki. Is that what goes on with you?
A couple tickets early. Daddy would need alone time for the adult channel, but now he needs it for Studio Ghibli.
Yes, the delivery girl will tell you her birthday.
PG 13 children.
my natural laziness because I haven't gotten around to actually buying a lot of the animes that I want to watch.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
And finding them dubbed as opposed to subbed is.
You would prefer them subbed. Some of them are so bad in English.
It's true! It's so true!
Do you tend to prefer English dubs?
Yes.
Huh.
Because if I look away, I can still tell what the heck is going on, as opposed to, what?
Also, you have children, which I'm sure they prefer dubs because I don't know their age ranges, but for all I know, some of them are not.
My youngest is 23.
Never mind. I take it all back. They should be able to read by then. Just saying.
Just because I still call them children doesn't mean that they're any younger than you guys are.
Hey, I am much older than 23. Okay, I'll put it that way.
You have a youthful voice.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Three things you never do. You never estimate a woman's age to be older than it actually is. You never estimate a woman's weight to be older than it actually is.
Older than it is, huh? All right, that should be hard.
What?
Next.
No, those are accurate, so I agree. Continue.
Let's move on to Terry the Human, who asks, "What is your favorite and least favorite My Little Pony episode?"
Oh, the worst one I think is the one where they made Spike look like such an idiot.
You're gonna have to narrow that down.
I mean,
like a lot.
We don't like
your
Spike
server?
here, so.
So the whole series is what you're saying.
Well, no. Spike's purpose in the series is so that Twilight does not speak to herself. Because she's crazy if she does that. Spike's entire role is to play the audience.
I hate that I like the first part of what you said, but now you just said that I'm Spike, and I might have to fight you.
No.
All right, take your bets here. Take your bets. Starting at $1.
Spike holds the same role in the show as. Have you watched The Producers?
Yes.
The guy who plays the accountant, which I can't remember if he's Bailey Stalker Bloom. He is the audience.
I thought you were going to say Lola, and I was like, please don't say Spike is Lola.
No.
Thank you.
The guy who plays the accountant is Spike.
Okay, I can back you on that.
The guy who plays the con artist in that is the main character.
So Twilight is a con artist. Got it.
Twilight's the main character. Spike exists so that she's not talking to herself.
So what you're saying is Spike has been a figment of Twilight's imagination this entire time.
I have a story that I've been wanting to write on that sometime.
Do it!
Where
Do it!
Spike is actually an imaginary friend. And powerful unicorns develop powerful, when they go through their surge, get an imaginary friend. And Spike, in this case, is her imaginary friend. And most unicorns, their imaginary friend goes away after like a couple of weeks. Like Shining Armors went away after a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It stays there for 10 years.
Well, because
Gives
Twilight
you an
was so
idea of how
isolated.
powerful she is.
Yeah, well, Twilight also was so isolated and had no friends, so she had no reason to get rid of him. So eventually, he just kind of became a fixture.
Like
humor.
Spike is her husband is. I mean, come
Topa
on,
confirmed.
that imaginary friends thing makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so is the sequel to this story going to be that Twilight just dumps him over at Foster's home for imaginary friends?
No, the ending of the story is when they have when Twilight and her friends defeat Nightmare Moon, and goes up, and she's talking with her sister, who isn't there, and every one of them is kind of looking at each other, going, "Oh hell!"
Oh no!
Yeah,
Oh
okay,
no!
we
That's
know
sad.
That's so sad.
We just locked ourselves in the friendship zone with her.
Oh.
Celestia, the any story that you wind up with, the ultimate ruler of our entire kingdom is absolutely flaky bonkers bonzo crazy.
I would watch that show.
Oh,
Luna's just a tulpa. That's amazing.
actually, I kind of love that. I'm sitting here thinking, like, I love the idea of Luna not existing and being like a legend that never existed.
I actually read a story that was sort of like that.
Anyway, we should move on. I love this. I love it.
Yes.
Give me 30 seconds. I also had one where I was planning on where went nuts when she banished her sister, and all of the unicorns in Canterlot kind of got together and formed this little secret cult. Celestia's kind of regressed down to about a 3-year-old age, but they have her trained so that she'll walk and respond like a regular pony to things. They're kind of using her as a cutout so that she still raises the sun and moon and all that.
Right. Huh.
Her episode during the school entry thing. And Celestia, and there's this little crack in that facade where you can actually see through and see just for a second. And then it goes away. And the unicorns are like, she knows too much. We have to wipe her memory. And Celestia goes, no. And then she goes back to what she was doing before. And all the unicorns are like, oh hell, something's going on here. And they bring Twilight into their conspiracy. Celestia, in this case, has regressed back to about a 2 or 3-year-old. So when Nightmare Moon shows up, they basically go to her and go, look, we don't want to fight you. Can you come back and help her?
This is a heck of a story.
Yeah, but like I said, it would take me about 6 months to get it written all out.
Right.
Hey, I'd read it.
I think a lot of people would read it.
But anyway.
Very nice. The next question that we have is, what is your favorite memory as a brony?
When Aegis Shield put up a blog post liked Monster in the Twilight.
Aww.
I'm sorry, it like doubled the number of hits Monster was getting at that point, because up to that point I was like, Bad Horse liked what I was doing, because I had worked with him on some stuff, and I'm like going along going, this is kind of a nifty thing, and Aegis Shield goes, hey, this is nifty. And I went, whoa, cool. Senpai noticed me.
I mean, that's pretty fair. I think I lost my shit when Present Perfect first reviewed something of mine. So it's like, it's good stuff. Next question is, what character do you think is worse, Zephyr Breeze or Spoiled Rich?
God, that's such a pain in the butt, because both of them were kind of a, for this one episode thing. As an author, I think Zephyr Breeze makes a better character for the fit, and I've seen Zephyr Breeze in real life several times. Rich just kind of came off
as all over the place.
Oh yeah, they're going to college. That's scary.
Right?
Kind of came off as a little fake.
All right. Next question is, what are your favorite male-female pony ships?
I still have Cheerilee and Big Mac as a favorite. Poor Cheerilee, she never gets anything. She's just so left out.
We'll have to make sure that that's up to the fandom now. Cheerilee's got to find a mate.
Hey, I wrote a story for Cheerilee's 1000, so actually I think I wrote 2.
Now then, how much of a Mary Sue is Flurry Heart?
Right now, she's not.
Well,
as she's a destructive force. The Mary Sue they've got right now is Starlight Glimmer, and and she actually is doing. She's actually doing a good job of coming to grips with her Mary Sueism, because it's like, I am incredibly powerful doing this, but I am absolutely incompetent at doing that. If Clearheart grew up and they could actually turn her into such a terrible Mary Sue.
All right.
Not a demon from hell either. For the next question.
Well, there we go. Number 7.
Well, didn't they say something about the she was the first natural born princess ever?
Yeah, she was the first natural born alicorn. I mean, with the thing with princesses, like, I don't think alicornism immediately equals princess. But that said,
okay. Quick spoiler: everybody here who hasn't actually seen the final episode, put your hands over your ears for a second. Remember that using Grogar's bell turned the stupid little Pegasus.
Yeah.
Alicorn.
Yeah. Cozy Glow.
They basically said, the amount of magic that a unicorn has in a meta, if it gets up to a certain point, turns them into an alicorn.
Oh.
So you have a magic alicorn baby with the control of a baby. It'll like giving your kindergarten class a bunch of fully automatic M16s with 30-round magazines.
Right. Now then, number 7. If you would be an alicorn prince or princess, what would you the prince or princess of?
Books!
Books! Take that, Twilight!
So, you'd be combating illiteracy.
Yes. Literacy man. Going wherever anyone cannot read.
I'd get behind that.
I can't make the joke.
Number 8.
Turns me into Barbara Bush, I know.
I thought it, Rav. It's okay.
Who would you befriend if you were a pony?
Oh, darn it! They all have such good friends. Probably Scootaloo. She needs it the worst.
Oh, yeah, she does have some family issues.
Like
which
being
kind of bring up to the where has she been staying all this time?
We did give that answer, but number 9
with everybody.
It's called the streets.
Who would you betray as a pony?
Ooh, I'm afraid that just by simply breathing, I would be betraying the great and powerful Trixie. Because whatever you do is going to be treated as betrayal. Failing to recognize her as.
Yeah, she's pretty thin-skinned. She is.
But she's great that way. I had more fun writing Trixie in Munster.
Well, you say she's
Wonderful
great.
to write.
You say she's great. One might say she's great and powerful.
Hey.
A highly insecure Trixie.
Yes, the highly insecure Trixie. Highly insecure and powerful Trixie. That's terrifying and true.
The great and highly insecure Trixie. Number 10. Which Barcast member would you turn into a Mary Sue Alicorn?
None, because none of you are bad enough to be turned into Mary Sue's. You're all wonderful people.
Aww.
Thank you.
That's so sweet.
And you escaped it.
You're making a mistake here by lumping me into this, because if I became a Mary Sue, I'd be corrupt with power.
Yeah, that is true. I don't think it's good for any of us to be a Mary Sue Alicorn, because we would just destroy everything.
Oh yeah, and it'd be so much fun.
Speaking of regrets,
remember the beauty pageant contestant who got asked once, what would happen if you won $10 million, and you're always supposed to give this answer like I'd help promote world peace or whatever, and she goes, I'd be a spending fool.
I'm proud of her for her honesty.
Speaking of regrets, I'm going to let Enigma ask these questions by RK Striker JK5.
All right, RK Striker says, what is your favorite non-MLP franchise?
Oh, gosh. I already mentioned Studio Ghibli. Franchise. I like Star Wars, and sometimes that's a little scary because the recent movies have really not helped much on that.
What recent
Man of
movies?
culture.
What recent movies?
There's no such thing as a recent movie.
Are you telling me that you don't believe that Princess Leia could be Mary Poppins in space?
That's part of it. Yeah, I'm sorry. There's so many spots in it where you go, wait a minute, hold it, no.
Are you saying it was written by a bunch of amateur fan fiction writers?
No, we have much higher skill on the fanfiction world.
Yeah. He's right. He's right, Raph. If it was written by fanfic, it'd be better.
I like this guy.
Forsooth, fetch the bomb for that one.
Also, before we move on, can us of the Barcast just take a moment to actually give a physical round of applause for Enigma actually following the thread and knowing where we were without asking?
Congratulations!
Why did one of those claps sound like a slap?
Congratulations! Congratulations!
Anyway, we can move on now. I just wanted to do that. Thank you for being patient, George. Enigma,
I have children. I'm patient.
Thank you.
Number 2 that he asked is, have you ever done anything for a non-MLP franchise?
Yes. I wrote, when they had the write-offs, I wrote a Heralds of Valdemar story.
Is that Lord of the Rings?
Poor deprived person, you.
That sounds like an elfish name. I don't know.
I think he's actually serious for a change, guys. I think he's actually admitting he's an idiot.
Repeat the name. Repeat the thing.
Heralds of Valdemar.
It's not ringing a bell with me.
It's okay, child. I'll talk.
Heralds.
You don't understand. This is the boy who asked me about HP Warcraft, so it's okay. Don't worry.
He's the guy who moved on to make craft macaroni, right?
Okay, so next question.
Next, please, for the love of God, next.
Was that the name of the orange dinosaur that they had for a while?
No.
Enigma, ask the next question, you person!
It's the name of
Number 3.
It's the name of the person who wrote The Catcher in the Rye.
Hush, priest!
Have you ever been hugged and or squeezed by a giant Yeti-like creature?
Next.
Okay.
I mean, I've been hugged by milk.
Next question.
No. I think I avoided the hug when I was at BronyCon.
Totally fair. Not everyone's a hugger. Mugganee's up next, who says, my biggest regret of BronyCon 2019 is I didn't get to meet you. At least there's still BronyCon 2020, and then he went back and crossed it all out. So, number 1, what will you do now that the show has ended?
Well, I'll cry some. I think everybody did that. Me writing fan fiction. I want to see what G5 shows up.
Makes sense to me. Number 2, have you written...
Hoping to buy a Winnebago.
Right.
Number 2.
Have you written fan fiction outside of the fandom? And if so, what? If not, do you see yourself enjoying writing for any other fandoms? And if so, what stuff do you hope to write? Man, that's a loaded question.
Actually, I was wanting to write a Monster Hunter International story.
Ooh! What would that be?
Wrestling with. Have you read any of the Monster Hunter stuff?
I have not, but I do know that it's a pretty popular game franchise.
Okay, quick summary. Monsters are real. The U.S. government, along with other governments, has a bounty on killing monsters. The objective is to keep anybody from realizing that there are monsters out there, because the more people who realize it, the weaker the border between our world and the unspeakable old ones gets, and the more likely they are to come through. So the objective is to keep everybody ignorant of the fact that there are monsters while killing the ones that are here. And Hunter International story happens with an accountant that winds up with his boss being a werewolf and trying to kill him, and he manages to kick him out of a 15-story window. And it's all done in first person.
Nice.
So it pulls the reader down into that. That's lots of shooting up.
Cool. Number 3, are you looking forward to when fanfic eventually becomes genfic?
Yes.
All right.
I'm desperately curious on how many other I can get my actual Harry Potter stuff cross-loaded across there.
Yeah, I know I, for one, am very excited about genfic, even though it sounds like there isn't a lot of plans to do it very quote-unquote soon.
Well, the fanfiction.net site is just an abomination of the noggin. I mean, sorry.
No, it's bad. It's really bad. I'm getting ready to write and do a bad fanfiction reading panel for another con, and my God, it's so hard finding stuff that is not just pony.
But do it because I like the browsing around and all the fun things that people have done with other concepts. Harry Potter and the Elements of Rationality, or whatever this is, for example.
Mm.
But let's take a weird idea and run with it.
Yeah. Number 4, have you published any professional work?
No.
All right. Number 5.
I got that Swords and Sorcery novel I'm still working on.
Number 5, in her royal morning cup of coffee, what was up with the human scene?
Put one in there. Did I? What?
Apparently, he says there is one.
Yeah, according to this person, they are very distraught about it, no less.
Well, if I don't have one, I'll go in there and write one so that he can be distraught about something.
Yes, good. Give the people what they don't want.
And then number 6.
Hey, it worked so well for Microsoft.
Number 6, how your day?
It's fine. How's your?
Awesome. Now then, I'm going to hand over to Flam for undetermined amount of time. I have to take care of something over here on my side.
All right, then.
We're starting off with Coffee Minion.
Coffee Minion. So, all right, my mic is not muted. Good.
Yes, we hear you.
So, awesome. Coffee Minion asks, you have a seemingly effortless command of humor. How do you keep it so sharp?
Sarcasm. Primary purpose of dealing with the real world. And then number 2, not saying this out loud, because that's the primary method of surviving in the real world, because if you say it out loud too often, you're going to get in really horrible trouble. Particularly at work. I'm sorry, I work at a place where you don't want to... It's like, there's a fairly broad line on don't touch that.
I think that's fair.
Completely agree. And that's
opportunity in a place like that. Ugh.
Yeah. And, I'm sorry, go on.
Just because you can't say it doesn't mean you can't think it.
Exactly. So that's the end of Coffee Minion's only question. So moving on to Totally Not a Brony, who asks, could you remind me the location of the carved Abraham Lincoln head?
I mentioned that on my blog once. My mom and dad went up in 1965 on a trip from Kansas up to Portland to visit Dad's relatives. And they took pictures on the way. And they took a picture of this giant block of granite with Abraham Lincoln's head on top of it. And I had no idea where it was. So when we went up to Everfree Northwest and we drove more or less the same route, and I had absolutely no idea I was going to be able to spot it, and we found it. It's like in Montana somewhere, just north of Colorado. And I can't remember. I'd have to Google to figure out where that's from.
So it's just a random Abraham Lincoln head carved into granite.
On top of a block. It's this.
That sounds like vaguely creepy.
Wyoming. There it is.
It sounds vaguely creepy.
I have no idea why they did that. I mean, Wyoming. I did a Google on that.
Interesting. All right, so just so everyone knows, somewhere in the Montana, Colorado area, there's a random
Laramie, Wyoming.
Lincoln head there. Go find it. Pray to it.
No.
And it was too. We're driving down the road, and the wife goes, "You think we should stop in Laramie?" I was like, "No, I think we can get through Laramie and keep going." Oh wait, we're stopping here because I was like, I saw that, and I was like, "Oh God, that's that picture."
Interesting. Alrighty, and that's the only question he's got. So, moving on to Moostasm, who says, first, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions, and then I want to have them answered immediately, apparently. So, number 1, Equestria, vacation spot or permanent residence?
Vacation spot, because it doesn't have internet.
Yeah, all right. No internet.
Immediate answers.
Yeah, there you go. Number 2, cheeky timeline shenanigans. You must replace one piece of historical artwork. So, and that includes paintings, statues, literature, videos, etc., with a piece of your own artwork. Your artwork will receive the same exposure as the original, including public showings, readings, school assignments, being read in place of worship, etc. What do you replace with that, and how is history changed?
I want to replace the Leroy Jenkins video.
Why?
I want my character in there.
I was gonna say, that's such a precious, relic of the internet. Why would you take that from us?
Because I'm evil.
Darn it!
What would you even replace it with?
My character. I've been playing World War since beta.
Well, all right then. Your own character. Sweet. Number 3. If you were the very model of a modern major general, would you have information primarily animal, vegetable, or mineral?
I'm too much of an internet person.
I'm sorry?
I'm an internet person.
Oh.
Internet's all mineral.
Gotcha. All right. Hopefully Moostasm then is satisfied with your immediate answers.
Yes,
so,
I can tell he is.
Indeed. So, we're going to skip Super Trampoline's question because that is inherently political in nature.
Thank you, Flam. Reminder to our question askers, don't ask about politics. Fuck you if you do. I'm so sorry I just swore at them, but I don't care. I'm so tired of this. Please continue.
Seriously. So, moving on to that other guy, how does this make you feel? And I will post this right here in the behind the counter. So, George, how does this make you feel?
He's dead. Hasbro. What? Puzzled.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's Starlight as Thanos.
Could be.
I mean, but there's no hair.
Interpretation.
I think it's just Hasbro itself, and it has all the toys.
Starlight.
Well, all right then.
It does. There is a Thanos vibe to it.
Definitely.
Wow, we did that at the same time.
Yeah, James.
Thank you for making me feel better about my own artistic talent.
Ooh, got him.
Zing!
Got him.
Now then,
All right.
We're just about halfway through the cast, so we're going to take a second and do a quick ad. Hey, Flam.
Yes, good sir.
Do you like horses?
No.
That's it. Thanks for watching the Barcast. We have a Patreon. We also accept tips through Twitch. If you would like to support what we do, we try and raise funds every single cast that we do through all the ads that we get on videos and airtime and things like that to donate a little bit of extra money to Horse Rescue charity. We don't accept any money from our Patreon, and we don't accept any money from our Twitch revenue. 100% goes to Red Wings Horse Sanctuary out in California, where we support... What horse do we support, Pencil?
Little bit. He's a little thing.
Yes, he's very cute, but we're trying to make sure he can have dentist appointments and stuff like that. So please consider throwing an extra $1 our way if you like what we do. And
if you are on Twitch and you feel like watching an ad, you can click on the little diamond in the lower right-hand part of your screen, get bits, and you can do that. And if you do that, you can give it to us. You'll be listed at the top as top cheerer. It'll make a little cool noise on our stream, and you'll be featured in our video. So there you go. Do the thing.
yes. Now then, without further ado, everyone's been waiting for this. We have the wonderful Rob Cakerin 53 up next with questions. And I can't think of anyone who'd be better to give these questions than Pencil. Would you like to?
Sure. Yeah, I can
write
do
something
that.
famous. I'm trying to remember. I'm just kidding.
All right.
I love
it's
Rob. I met
time
him at BronyCon.
He wrote
It's
Past
time for-
Sins.
Oh my god, no. So, Rob Cakerin53, who wrote My Little Dashie and changed the face of the fandom forever, asks, people joke about me being their grunkle, but you, sir, are truly our uncle of the fandom.
Weird uncle.
Why is it you have to maintain so many OCs with such compelling backstories and attributes?
Because I don't have good... Okay. When I'm writing a story, and I say, okay, I need to put a character in that matches this particular shtick. For example, let me pick on Buggy and the Beast there for example. I needed a main male character who was ugly, disagreeable, and cranky, and not the donkey, because I was going to ship him. So I had to make an OC. I made Beat Salad, the cranky, disagreeable unicorn knight. And then I needed a changeling who was also cranky, disagreeable, hateful, spiteful, and I had that one. So I had 2 OCs right there, and then I needed a Spike to have somebody for Beat Salad to talk to where he wasn't talking to himself, so he wouldn't sound crazy. So that's how I got Nectarine out of that. Example that Rob lists is Pumpernickel and Lamnia. Pumpernickel's actually origin was in the first story I wrote where I needed a guard to have his tail slammed in the door. Goes into a room and slams the door.
Oh, wow.
And I needed an excuse for Celestia to talk to her sister and have her sister open the door other than please open the door and talk to me. It was please open the door because you caught one of your guard's tails in the door. and Luna goes, open the door. Started out as this hapless night guard. And I built him up from there to be, needed a character to fit that characteristic, and I didn't have one in the fandom. Each one, that's how each one kind of got developed, where I needed a square peg for a square hole. So without having a square peg of that particular variety, I went and made one.
So yes, makes sense.
All right.
Probably got about a dozen or 2 at this point.
That's a lot.
Exposures.
Well, Rob has more questions for you. And the next one is, it says, you need to make an excuse to come up here and visit Michigan. I'm here, so is Admiral Biscuit. I mean, really, those are the only reasons one should need. Anyway, come to TrotCon. Your response?
I'm seriously considering it. I've got my best man from my wedding lives up in that general vicinity. Okay. We were actually going to drop by and visit him when we went out to BronyCon, because we went up by way of the Great Lakes because we had been before. And it was like, we got up to that point, kind of got up to Chicago, and we were like, no, we're just going to keep going this way.
Well, I know some of us will certainly be at TrotCon, so I hope to see you there.
Darn it, you guys are making it kind of difficult for me.
I know. Go. We'll be there. We'll give you not hugs. It'll be great.
We have the best not hugs.
It's true. We do get the best not hugs. So we have another question. Also, George, how do you balance other people's OC characters in your stories? Do you talk with the owners to get a feel, or do you just ask permission and roll with it?
See, I've used a couple. I used ST. ST is a really difficult one to use because it's hard to get a hold of her. Let's see. I've used Sizzler from STs. Let's see the exact question. Generally, if I'm going to use a character out of somebody's, ring them up and ask them about it. And, on that, except for I stole a couple of Admiral Biscuit's side characters.
Well, I mean, who doesn't?
But when I borrowed Sizzler, for example, for the Traveling Tutor and the Royal Exam, I think I went back and forth with ST for about a half a dozen emails. Good handle on what Sizzler was.
So you really do your research.
Unless I'm just kind of offhand mentioning it.
Right. All right. Well, that's all the questions that Rob had. Unless I refresh the page and I'm being terrible. No. All right.
We're evil people.
Yep, he says, back to you, priest boy.
Hey, thank you. That was supposed to be Rolf, and that just came off really bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's
I can't do Rolf from that end anyway. I apologize.
Waka waka waka.
Life has many doors, priest boy.
Alex _ is up next. How does trees work?
Very well, thank you. We're not going to get into transpiration here.
Number 2, what's your favorite kind? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, favorite kind of fruit is a peach.
Eat
I
that.
intend on writing a story about Twilight Sparkle eating a peach, but I think it's already been done to death.
Is it a juicy story?
It would be juicy, yes.
Ooh.
Ha!
Does it end with her choking on the pit?
Enigma, what the...
No,
what
it
the heck?
ends with a nice fuzzy feeling.
Ah,
I can just see Twilight Sparkle as an alicorn going, yes, I love peaches, particularly the crunchy center.
Oh, God.
Lord, I don't like that. Please include it in a story.
She's an alicorn, so I imagine, her jaws can take it.
Also, the arsenic won't kill her. Actually, it's cyanide. Excuse me, not arsenic. It's cyanide that's in peach pits. My bad.
Isn't it arsenic is in apple seeds?
Yeah, I got them reversed. I'm sorry.
No, I think you're getting that confused with asbestos.
No, that's in baby powder.
Asbestos? Did you say asbestos?
Asbestos.
No, all of that is wrong.
Hephaestus, the ancient Greek god, is inside all peaches.
The fact that you actually got it right, that Hephaestus is a Greek god, I can't even be mad at you.
Hey, Applejack has the arsenic, and Rarity has the old lace.
He also makes a great yogurt.
Let's move on.
We're moving on. Number 3, what's your best anecdote? So, a story about your life that you would tell friends for a laugh.
Oh, the best? I don't have. I got a bunch of them that are falling under good, but I don't have any that really go under best.
Tell us a good one.
In college, I decided to get a private pilot license.
Whoa!
We had, I'm going to skip over about 4 hours of talking here. During that process, we decided that we were going to go to a science fiction convention in Wichita. It was about a 3-hour drive away from Manhattan, but it's about an hour by air. Because me and a couple of the other guys were all, oh, this is cool. We'll rent an airplane and fly there.
Oh!
Two of the guys were pilots, and really, it's pretty cheap to rent an airplane actually to go flying places. And so we rented
like a dude hold my beer type of story.
Oh no, that's the one that comes after this. But 6 of us, we got together renting the airplane, and this one wasn't that was terribly expensive. For the 6 of us, split up 6 ways. Flew down to Wichita, landed, parked the airplane, got a rental car, went over to the hotel. Oh, I'm sorry, that science fiction convention canceled.
Oh.
No.
That was nice. So, are we going to stay here? No, we're all going to cancel out our hotel reservations, go back over, get in the airplane, and fly back to Manhattan. Halfway back on the way to Manhattan, it starts getting dark outside, but it starts getting dark inside. And all the lights on the inside are getting kind of dark. And people are starting to get kind of concerned. And the pilot and pilot's my roommate at that time, who's also my best man later. They say, the alternator's out. An airplane, you have an alternator, and you have there's other little widget inside the engine that generates power as long as the engine's spinning, so that spark plugs don't die. If your alternator dies, when your battery runs out, you stop. In an airplane, when your alternator runs out, when the battery runs out, you can still fly until you turn the engine off. So we land about halfway between Wichita and Manhattan. One of the guys runs inside to the fleet FOB.
Right.
They have a mechanic who can replace the alternator. No, not until Monday. He comes back over. We have a discussion. As college students, being intelligent, smart, great, vast brains, and vast amounts of wisdom, we decide that we have enough battery power left in the airplane that we can run the radio and the landing lights, and we fly back to Manhattan in the dark without an alternator, with no lights on the inside of the airplane, none of the inside instruments running.
Oh my gosh.
Keep everything's turned off until we get to the airport. Then they turn the radio on, and yeah, that was a case of stupidity. Everybody who flies private pilot license gets a stupid story. If you know somebody with a private pilot's license, there is a stupid story involved. 2, we flew. The 4 of us in a 172, we flew up from Manhattan to Kansas City once to go visit our friend. It started to get kind of stormy looking. This is in the fall. It's cold out. So we decided we're going to fly back to beat the storm.
Okay.
VFR, you have to have 3,000 feet elevation and 5 miles visibility. We had 3,000 feet of elevation and 5 miles visibility when we took off. Of instrument rating. 3,000 feet is not that terribly much altitude. It's about 2 minutes worth of gliding before you smash into something if your engine goes out. So we're flying back from Kansas City at night. It's getting dark. The clouds are coming down as we're flying. The temperature is going down as we're flying. With my roommate at this point. And Mike yells, "We're icing up." Ice forms on airplanes when you're flying when it's cold.
Mm-hmm.
Ice on your airplane, it doesn't fly anymore. It doesn't take too terribly much ice on your airplane to make it not fly anymore. 3,000 feet. So we drop down to about 2,000. It's warm enough at 2,000 feet that the ice is melting off the wings. In Kansas City and Manhattan, there's Topeka. And there's a couple of 2,000-foot towers for radio.
Okay.
So we're flying back at about 2,000 feet. Mike's flying the airplane. I've got the flashlight looking out the window at the wings to make sure that we're not getting any more ice. We're flying at about 10 feet in weather we should not be up in because we don't have instrument licenses. Fly all the way back to Manhattan. After this is all over, go over to the FOB because you always fill up the airplane with gas afterwards because they're stored full. The gas guy comes out, looks at the airplane, pulls out his stick, whacks swing a couple times. These giant slabs of ice come falling off onto the ground. We're like going, I am so glad we're back on the ground. Okay. If you know somebody with a private pilot's license who has flown more than a dozen times, they will have at least one story like that.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing those stories. We've never had stories like that before. That's so awesome.
That's so distressing. Good. I'm glad you're not dead.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad I'm not dead, too, because when we were flying back through Topeka, remember those 2 towers I was talking about? We could look out the left-hand side of the window and see the one of them, and look out the right window and see the other one at our altitude.
Oh no.
And they're about a mile off either way. And it's like, yeah, from Kansas City to Manhattan, we flew down I-70, which is the concrete VOR. And so if we had any type of real serious icing where we really had to land, it would have been a matter of going, okay, we landed. But I had to send somebody out to take the airplane and put it on a truck and truck it back to an airport because you can't take off from I-70. They don't like that.
I would imagine so.
A lot of questions from the FAA. Things like, what the hell were you doing up in that weather? Why in the hell didn't you land?
Well, they may have had questions for you, but we definitely have questions for you.
It's true. We'll go on to number 4 from Alex _. Would you say you're generally open to new experiences?
Oh, yeah. As much as somebody over 50 is, yeah.
All right. Now then, we've got questions from Desert Bloom. Number 1, before you stand 2 mare, Celestia and Luna, and they are fighting to the death, what is the best cake?
For that particular experience. Something complicated? In between those two.
Yeah. I mean, just this question's so strange. What is the best cake? I mean, red velvet, I guess.
For that particular moment, popcorn.
Perfect.
Ta-da!
Number 2, are Earth ponies really werewolves?
What, complicated answers?
Yes, let's do it. Why not?
Because the werewolves, the were is a, if I remember right, it's Latin for man. Because we covered this once on one of my stories where somebody was critiquing it. And it's a pony that turns into a wolf would not be a werewolf. They would be a hippo wolf or something.
A hippo wolf. How does that work? Wouldn't it be more like an equo wolf or I don't know.
Equo wolf, yeah. Well, hippo is the Latin for horse, which is why you have hippopotamus, which is water horse.
You just blew my mind.
I think the weirdest people that make comments when I'm writing stories. Remember, I'm the one that had to go cross-reference. Was it for Frombach? Someplace in Frombach Museum on Kepler. On the sun rules over all, and I had the Latin phrase in there, and somebody's going, "No, that can't possibly be right." I contacted the museum that actually had that over their museum, that quote.
Oh my
So I was going, yes, I'm perfectly right, and here I have a picture from Frombach indicating it. And it's really fun when you write emails like that. This may sound a little strange, but I'm a writer, and I think you could write to anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
Sentence off. This sounds a little strange, but I'm a writer, and about anything. No,
I want to understand how bodies decompose better.
Yeah, you write somebody. You write off to the coroner or something. You say, "This may sound a little weird. I'm a writer." and I need to know how decomposed a human body would be left out on the surface after 3 weeks.
I've had this conversation.
Listen, Mr. FBI man, I'm a writer, and I want to know what it's like to spy on someone.
Oh, I did this. Well, when I did Farmer Bruner Has Some Ponies, I actually went to the Riley County Emergency Management people who had a booth at the fair, and I started off my line like that. I said, "Look, I'm a writer, and I'm doing a story where I didn't say ponies.
Right,
I said,
of course.
I have like 200 aliens dropped in a field out by Randolph. Generally, what would you guys do in that situation? Because I know you don't have for aliens dropped into field in Randolph up north of town. But, generally what would happen at this point?
Right.
And they gave me a rundown, and I made notes. One of the great things about being a writer is you can go to just about anybody. So I'm a writer, and I'm writing this thing. How many pounds of plutonium does it take to make a nuclear bomb?
Okay. On that note,
And you may still get the FBI called on you, but it's
at least we can all have a good laugh about it.
Yeah.
This sounds like the new social experiment excuse. Well, you see, I'm a writer, so that's why I ran around doing this.
Yeah. And we're going to stay out of politics at this point. So
yeah. Number
well, hey, Nico, now you've got a way to excuse your bullshittery in front of 2 cops on a tram car.
Anyway,
number 3. Jesus.
How could you say I'm a writer for film, and we're going to be doing a movie that involves a chase scene on a train, just like this?
No, I don't trust Enigma's right to do any of this. I don't trust Enigma to say any of this, and not mess it up. So, no, Priest. What's the next question?
Number 3: hug, cuddle, or boop between a Minotaur, a Griffin, and Enigma.
Hug 'em all.
Aww, that's so sweet. Number 4: 3 of the Barcast have mysteriously passed on. I know I want to be dead. Who do you resurrect? Who do you leave for dead? And who would become a subject of science?
I think that, possibly I would hold on to that resurrection for somebody that I might actually know.
Someone you personally know. I understand.
I really don't like you guys, but there's other people closer here that I might want to use that on.
And to make you feel better, we're probably in a better place?
No. Let's be clear. Anyway, next.
Lastly, should Cadence divorce Twilight to marry Shining? What?
Huh? No, they can have a threesome.
Yay! Next, Lucky 7.
We got George to make a sex reference.
And you're so proud.
He does write M-rated stories.
I know, but on the podcast, live, it happened. I'm so proud.
I have one story with 2 chapters. Come on.
Proud.
Lucky
It's not porn. It is erotica.
Fair enough. Lucky 7 is up next. How does it feel to have the most followers on anyone on Fanfiction that has a pony creator image as their avatar?
To be really honest, I kind of expected by now somebody artistic to go, would you like me to draw
We totally did that! We did! Oh my gosh! We did!
Because I see the other stories where people are like, ooh, I love what you did, I'm drawing something for that. 2 of those. For the mermaid stories. The One Who Got Away and Drifting Down the Lazy River. And actually the cover for Drifting Down the Lazy River is off of one of those, I will draw you a picture because I love what you're doing so much. But I've never had anybody going, I want to replace your avatar because it sucks so bad. Here, this one's much better.
Aww.
And I have one person, but that was about 6 years ago, and I'm sorry I got to critique artistic wise here. It was worse than what I would do if I were drawing, so.
Oh. Maybe we can.
I like that one, so.
maybe now that we have this this high resolution version from Eighth who does our cover art now, we can improve. We can crop it a little better, and you can have a nice new avatar.
Yes, shout out to Eighth. Eighth, please help us.
It looks more or less same character, same pose. What the hell is this?
Desert Bloom is up next again. Number 1. There was once a vampire and a werewolf who competed for the love of a girl. So why are dragon tits the best thing ever? Wow, okay, moving on. Number 2, is Applejack a werewolf?
Oh, but she's full of squirrels.
Yay!
Wait, she's like
love that
Oogie
story.
Boogie?
Story, Applejack is full of squirrels.
These are basically...
It's literally a story.
These are rehashed questions of the same post before. I'm sorry. I'm going to move on. Sunbro for Life is up next. What's your favorite video game?
Warcraft? I've been playing since beta.
Warcraft?
Although lately I've been been off of it. World of Warcraft. Yeah.
Nice. Are you playing the new classic version?
Oh, my son is. My son kind of appropriated the computer for that. 60 forever. We actually managed to get our guild in with another guild and raided Molten Core, I think, for 8 weeks before I had a mental breakdown and had to bail out because it was just too much stress.
Fair enough.
Sorry, 8 weeks of raiding, one piece of equipment, and the only reason I got to keep it is because it was soulbound. And we didn't have the guild leader in because he was the one who was supposed to have gotten it. I'm sorry, 8 weeks of raiding, one piece of equipment.
Alan, number 3. Oh my gosh, number 2. What's your favorite boss fight?
Oh, I like the level 60 final one with Ragnaros. That's a cool boss fight in World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
People all over the place and into the lava.
I never got quite that far in World of Warcraft.
I get to go there with
some
my
encounters they have
son's guild once because my son's guild they like farmed the place, and I got to go in as a healer once because they needed a healer because nobody wants to run a healer.
Right.
Going bazoop bazoop bazoop. This is neat. This is neat. This is neat. Oh look, he did the little fire thing. Whee! Okay, I'm dead. I'm over in the lava. I'll just wait till they finish killing it and they can resurrect me and we can see what we got.
Were you around during the Blood Plague?
Yeah, if I remember right, that was the there's a disease that instances that affects characters and then it expands to people who are next to them.
Mm-hmm.
And expands to people who are next to them. When you're in a raid, got his pet infected, dismissed his pet. After the raid, he goes back to the auction house, resummons his pet. His pet has the disease. Everybody in the auction house. It spreads from there to everybody in Ironforge. Everybody who gets it runs around like an idiot to everybody else and then dies. And then they come back and they resurrect while other people are running around like idiots and they get infected and they died. And it was the most hilarious thing ever.
Memories.
Oh, God. Yeah, the whole town, because the guards were dying. And people were coming over to Ironforge because, dude, you have to come see this. And everybody would come over and be like, what's going on? Hey, why am I infected? I died.
It was insane. People were intentionally spreading the disease and some were trying to keep it.
It was.
Oh, wow.
It was a mess. It was
almost as good as when they kited what's his name in the Stormwind.
That giant boss monster guy, they lured him into the city.
Oh,
The one that gets more powerful the more people he kills. And they managed to kite him into, was it Stormwind?
It was some bit large main city.
So many seconds he does this attack that does like 3 million points of damage to everybody he can see. And they all keel over and die. And he's going through town because he's going towards the people he can see. So just hilarious. Then of course, Blizzard had to ruin it by coming in and going, we're going to shut the server down. We're going to put him back where he belongs.
Oh. But
isn't that like one of those situations where they should be like, hey, you guys have a really high level. See if you can beat this for everyone else.
Oh.
Yeah, but the thing is, since he got more powerful, the more people he killed. And he's killing everybody in town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in town, some people are like new players are like very low level, so they get one-shotted by this.
Yeah, I know. I recognize all this. I'm saying, wouldn't it be like the ultimate boss fight to go up against this guy after he's killed about 3,000 people?
Every attack that he does at that point is powerful enough to kill one-shot anybody, no matter how much stuff they have.
Yeah.
No matter what level they are.
I know. Ultimate boss fight.
No, that's called suicide.
Oh, and I think that when he did the attack, he healed whatever damage he did.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
It was, there's videos of it still out there.
We'll have to see if we can find something to put them in the description of our YouTube video.
They did it. They did kind of an equivalent of that intentionally with when they did the Lich King, because then you had so there was an event where you died in town and you went around and you attacked other players until you died, and then you resurrected back as something else. But it was actually an event.
Oh, huh.
Out, but you could attack other players at that point. Turned into an undead by one of these other things. It was just turned everyone's city into a giant PvP zone.
Cool. Well, we'll jump on to the next question then, because I'm sure not everyone shares our love for World of Warcraft. Number 3. Have you accepted Skeletor, the master of the universe, into your heart?
Amen forever. Better sword. Okay, admittedly, they're two halves of the same one, but still.
Right. Number 4. You are in Ponyville, or the tiny horse hamlet. What business do you start?
Question. I think going around with a squirt gun and squirting panicked ponies is the best one there. Oh God! There's bunnies stampeding. Psst, psst, psst. Okay, thanks. I needed that.
Now, is that private funded or government funded?
I can see that being private funded. Oh God! Help! No, bunny rabbits. Psst, psst, psst. That'll be 5 bits, please.
We're on the razor's edge, my friends, so we're gonna move on. Number 5. Do you even praise, bro? Of course, in reference to Dark Souls. Oh,
Once a week.
Okay. Vylon's up next. Flam, do it.
How are you today? I'm fine. How are you?
Well, I can do it. I can do it.
Okay, Pencil, do it.
It's time for questions with Vylon.
Yay. And we already got to how are you today? And you're doing good. We did get some more questions asked during the cast, so I'm going to jump in with those now. Jammer's up.
Shot.
Oh, what's up?
Shot. I'm ready.
All right. What's it like to write stories? How would you suggest aspiring authors to start out? And do you have any tips, tricks, or things you wish you knew when you first started?
Oh God, I gave a whole speech on that for an hour in Everfree Northwest. I think one of the big things when you're writing a story how do you? Okay, how do you? Okay, Sesame Street did this once, where they had a story. The story. They had 3 Muppets. One of the Muppets says, "Time," and then the Muppet at the end goes, "And they lived happily ever after." But in the middle is the one that actually tells the story.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a story, and you have to have an exit. If you don't have an exit, because you're going to get up to a certain point, and you're going to stop, and you're going to go, okay, I give up. If you don't have a start, you have no way to set everybody, how is this story going to look? Where the actual story takes place. I'll use that as an example. Twilight Sparkle makes a cult friend, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that one.
Well, I can't remember the name of the artist who did the picture that I used. But it's a picture of this Pegasus who is a plush on it. And I saw that, and this bolt of lightning comes down from the sky and struck me. And I said, it's perfect. It's just like what Twilight Sparkle would make in order to practice dating. I had my intro right there. I said, Twilight Sparkle creates a doll so that she can take it on dates, so that none of the bad things that happen to her normal dates will hurt it. So in the event it falls out of a window or gets set on fire or whatever, like the rest of her dates, it won't actually hurt a pony. And she'll get the practice so that she can then go on to date a real pony. Mm-hmm. As a story, it has to go terribly bad. So Twilight Sparkle makes this doll, and it's really good. Just like a real pony, in terms of how it reacts and how it talks, and so where's the bad part about this? Well, the answer to that is, when you get to the tail end of it, and it dies because Twilight goofed up on the creation because she has to charge it, and every time she charges it, it takes a little less time before it runs out of charge. And at the very end, she's just sitting there going, charge, 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 charge. And at the very end, it goes poof. She's all depressed because she has lost this creature. So it goes from being up serious, and you have to have a ramp, because you can't just start out funny and go straight to serious.
Yeah, there has to be that
transition.
Yeah.
So, this is funny. Look, Twilight's made a doll. Isn't this adorable? And you work your way up to, okay, Twilight made a really good doll, and now we get to say, how can we horribly abuse this doll in ways that you couldn't possibly do to a pony, because people would say, oh, this is abuse. And then at the very end, you go, okay, we've now abused the doll, and the doll is proving to be really a good companion. What can go wrong? Goes wrong, and the doll goes poof. And I could have stopped there. I could have ended one chapter before the end there.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter at the tail, because I cannot write a downer story very well.
Right.
You guys have seen the stuff that I do where someone will have written a story that ends kind of on a down note, and I have to write a comment in there going, look, this is a change. Look, it actually does this. So I wrote a final chapter where she finds that got his attributes copied by her spell,
mm-hmm.
but it's not the same. It's not like, oh, she meets Bob. It's like she meets the pony who has a lot of characteristics that went into the doll. Okay, this is a real pony. We have to be kind of careful. We're actually going to explain this to him, and maybe I can become as attracted to this one as I was to the doll.
Right.
So instead of him being dead, not really dead, he's actually, as this character, maybe there's a future that goes on from there. So there's an arc. You go comedy, build up, drama, you have a dramatic termination. Dramatic termination goes off into a heartfelt possible reunion. Gosh, and we want to see what's going on from there. So you have a flow across that. But all of that dropped on me when I saw that one picture. Like, bing, okay, I got the beginning.
And then
when I said, okay.
When you have that beginning, do you then work all the way so that way you know your ending as you write, or?
Oh, I had the whole thing more or less framed at that point because I had the beginning. Twilight Sparkle makes it all. I had the kind of end point wrong, and the doll goes away right there. And then I said, okay, something after that, and I said, well, I'll worry about that as I'm writing. And I wrote everything between goes away. I wanted to use the scene out of Corpse Bride. Emily?
Yeah, that's her name.
Turns into butterflies and flies away on the breeze.
Mm-hmm.
That scene, I wanted that scene bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, that's perfect. That's a perfect ending for the doll. I had that complete arc up to that last chapter done. So I wrote that whole thing. And then writing that whole thing, I said, okay, now I know how I'm going to write the last chapter. I had an ending, I had a beginning, I just had to write everything in between the two. Same thing for Librarian. That was kind of an experiment, because I had gotten tired. I had read like 6 stories on Fanfiction before I saw that one, and they were all, hi, you have absolutely no idea who I am. Let's go have sex. Dude, I'm married. I know better. So I had seen so many of these stories. I said, I am going to write between Twilight Sparkle and an OC that actually could work as a romance. And I had the beginning worked out. I said, this guy, and it goes absolutely wrong in the worst way possible. The end scene figured out. The guy leaves town on the train. Station goodbye. Like you've seen those in some movies where the girl's running alongside the train and the train's leaving and the guy's beating out the window going, oh, I'll always remember you. And the girl's like, take care where you go. Kind of like that, only lower key.
Mm-hmm.
And an ending. And I said, okay, now where do I go from here? Timeline. I said, I want 2 months. I cannot do this in 3 days. Yeah. So I said, I'm going to establish 2 months. From the time he shows up to the time when he leaves, 2 months will pass. And I had the beginning, and I started, and I just wrote along. Just the ending. And at the ending, because I said I want the ending to happen in have the heartwarming scene in there.
Right.
So I had my time zone wrote up to that, and I got to the very end. I got the train station goodbye, and because that was I started at the beginning and worked my way through. Didn't have any parts of the middle planned when I was working my way through. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the letter, the permission letter, for example.
Right.
I didn't have that set up. I'd sit there and go, how do I keep this from devolving into, and then the two of them banged. Okay, well, we'll put this as so concerned about her that he isn't going to push the issue, period, unless he were to get a letter of permission from her parents or Princess Celestia, which is one of those, that'll happen. Takes the strain off of it, because there's entirely too many stories. Bob meets Barry, the two of them kiss, and 3 chapters later, they're in each other's beds.
Yeah.
Bob, in this case, Bob meets Mary, and she was in his bed in chapter 3, but that didn't count.
Right.
But yeah, and I said romance doesn't take place so quickly. When I wrote The One Who Got Away, I had framed. I was talking with either Bad Horse or Ghosts of Heracles, and story. At one time, there were 3 brothers who split a barony up, and one of them took everything on the east of the river, one of them took everything on the west of the river, and one of them takes the river, where the story is going to take place.
Right.
He said, and it's full of sea ponies? Hey, that'll work. So I had 7-day time frame for the One Who Got Away, because I didn't want it to go 500 chapters.
Right.
To leave Canterlot and have a 7-day deadline for him to produce his story of all the creatures. And day 1 he meets the Seneschal. The Seneschal in this case is the Spike. It's the person who he talks to, because otherwise he's talking to himself.
Right.
2, he meets Ripple. Ripple's one of the main characters, because Ripple's a sea pony. And at the end of that chapter, if the reader is not screaming internally, why can't he see that she's a sea pony? I have to see what's going on, because that's the hook. That's the hook. The reader now knows something that the main character doesn't, and the reader wants to keep reading to see when the main character realizes this. Next chapter introduces Pearl, and he falls madly in love at first sight. Infatuation at first hear. It ends with him coming to the realization that he's not the important one here. Him gaining a barony, now I'm baron, I'm now a very important person. He's gained a responsibility. The important ones here are the sea ponies, and he needs to stay there to protect them, as opposed to I'm a baron. This is great. I'm wonderful.
Right. I don't want to cut you off, because you are giving a lot of really valuable insight to your writing process. But we do have some more questions and only about 10 minutes left.
Blaze away.
So I'm gonna pick and choose just a little bit. Are you aware of the OC Thing pony? I'm not sure if I caught that answer per se.
I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
Is that the one that was in the chat there about the
John Carpenter's The Thing, but a pony.
John Carpenter's The Thing? Yeah, no, I'm not. I didn't see any of that until today.
Well, they are quite a popular OC. Would you be interested in writing a romance about her?
Probably not.
Okay.
Yay!
Number 5 from Jammer. Have these questions today bothered you in any way?
If they bother me, I'll tell you. When I'm donating blood, the nurse is always going, "Did that hurt?" I said, "If it hurt, I'd tell you." I am not one. I don't suffer, very well with in silence.
Fair enough. Latrius is up next. Would you hug a bat pony?
Oh, of course, they're cute and fuzzy.
How about an original style changeling?
In changeling form?
Yes.
I don't know. It kind of depends. Would you hug a Celes? Of course you would hug a Celes.
And then course, they gave you a nice little good picture of a bat pony right there. And the
It's a bat pony in the hand.
the final question is from Pencil, a lovely pencil that we have here. What order do burgers stack in? What order do you put the meat, lettuce, pickles, tomato, and so on? How do you burger?
How do I? Okay, that's a two-parter. I burger at establishments by ordering them. Give me a hamburger. Yes, I want all that stuff on it. And that's it. At home, I never have pickles or lettuce or tomato, and I wind up getting a hamburger on a piece of bread with some ketchup on it and a second piece of bread. So,
Wait. No. Whoa! I was gonna say if you
listen, there is no cheese in your question. Why is there no cheese in your question?
because you know where the cheese goes. The cheese goes on top of the meat. Like,
Of
who doesn't
course,
put
yeah.
cheese? That's an easy one. Everyone knows where that one goes. But
Unless you're Jewish, in which case that's mixing. Meat and-
religion. Anyway. But the big question here is, well, so you don't put lettuce on it. You don't put pickles or tomato or anything. You just have meat, cheese, and bun.
If I have it, the ketchup goes below the hamburger.
Okay.
Cheese
Why?
goes on top. Well, because you don't want to put the ketchup on the cheese.
Why?
Well, it slides off.
Mm.
It drips more. And then lettuce goes on top of that.
Mm. Interesting.
Pickles on hamburgers because I'm supposed to be on a low salt diet.
Yeah,
and
that
I'm
would.
trying to keep away from pickles, but you know that it's kind of tough to do a low salt diet because everything in the whole bloody world is covered in salt.
It's true. It's so true.
Well, I mean, yeah, like burgers are pretty much like salt mountains.
Yeah.
So, and here's another question: do you put mayonnaise on your burger?
Oh, hell yes.
Is it just a me thing that I just don't want mayonnaise on my burger?
I like mayo on my burger.
No.
Oh my god!
It's not just a you thing. I don't like mayonnaise on mine either.
High five, Rav.
Mayonnaise is the elixir of the gods.
I mean,
Anti-mayo brigade. You and me, Rav. We're in it together.
mayonnaise is one of the critical components of special sauce.
It's one of the
Yeah, but-
reasons why hamburgers at the hamburger joint don't taste as good as the hamburgers you make yourself.
Oh.
Now let me ask you this:
They don't
when
have-
you
they don't have
dilute mayonnaise, is it even mayonnaise anymore?
Or is it aioli?
Mayo chop.
Chop? No, thank you.
It's Nez.
Now then, speaking of piles of salt, I'm sure that there are people that are going to be salty, that they didn't get the chance to ask a question today if they're catching this cast after YouTube. So, if anyone had a sort of question that they wanted to ask you outside of this cast, what's the best way for them to send you an email or send you a private message? What's the best way to contact you?
Off Fanfiction.
Off Fanfiction, so like a PM on Fanfic? Would that be the best way?
Yep.
All right.
Fine.
Cool. And then last but not least, do you have any really cool projects that you're hoping to finish up soon, or anything new that you're hoping to release?
Well, darn it! If TrotCon doesn't look tempting.
Do it.
Are
Do
you
it.
gonna-
Anyway, go to TrotCon.
Yes. Are you going to do Everfree Northwest again this year?
I don't know. I was gonna do it this year. Because last year, we're Free Northwest, but last year I got in on the writing thing and I wrote something and I was just so damn proud because, you know, I'm a very important writer, therefore what I wrote is very important and very good. And I put that in like last year and I'm sitting there listening to they're announcing the winners and they're reading the stories off and I'm listening to these and I'm going, oh God, that is so much better than what I wrote. Oh God, that is so much better than what I wrote. Oh my God, that is so much better than what I wrote. So I was like, oh God. And then, because we drove up and the wife calls me up at that point and says, can we get out of here? I'm ready to go now. And I'm like, all right. I didn't stay for closing ceremonies.
Oh, yeah.
And then about half, because I was like, okay, I'm probably not going to come back here because it's nice, it's a nice convention, I have to admit. And they had, the voice actors and the directors. I really enjoyed that, but it is all the way at the other end of the universe. And about 6 months after that, I get this note from Winston saying, "Do you want to be a community guest at Everfree Northwest?" I'm like, "No guest?" And he goes, "Yeah." Well, let me think about it. So I get back a little later and says, "How's this work?" He says, "Well, we got these panels. Go on a panel, and they'll ask you about things that you're good at." I'm like, "Well, that'll be short." So I get him. I say, as long as I'm on a panel with some other people I can hide behind, that's perfectly fine, because there's no way in the world I'll ever be able to do a panel on myself. So I agreed to that, and he got me in. And we got into talking about us and the rest of the panelists. We're all getting together. How are we scheduled? What day are we going to be there? And they started listing off. George said that he wanted to talk about introductory writing, and so wanted to talk about this, and Admiral Biscuit wanted to talk about that. And I got looking at the schedule, and I said, "Here, you gave me a room all to myself with nobody else on the panel." And that's the way they're all going. Everybody gets, an hour or so to themselves with their group. And I'm like, "Oh, me? With nobody else to hide behind?" Oh, shit. So I said, well, I said yes. So I went up and I got on the panel, and people actually showed up at the panel to listen to what I had to say. And I went through my notes, and I talked about it. We opened it up to questions, and I answered questions, and they eventually had to chase us out because they had some other panelists coming in, and we were still going strong. So I said, well, that's a success. And I said, this is a victory. I participated. I am so proud of myself. And then they had the writing thing at the end of it again. It was Iron Rider. And I sat down and I wrote a story, and that's really that fantastic story, as opposed to the egotistical monster I was on the last time. I said, I don't think this is too terribly good, but I think it's pretty good.
Right.
Or they did the announcements. Like, one of them said, "Are you going to show up at the announcements?" I went, "Well, I don't have to go home because my flight isn't until Tuesday." Because I wanted to take Monday to do tourism stuff. Right. So they said, "You just want to make sure you're going to be there." I was just, well, okay. Looking forward to all the other nifty stuff, and I sat down, and I'm sitting there. They're going through the thing, and they said we had a very difficult decision this time, because second and third place, exactly the same number out to like the fourth decimal place.
Oh my gosh!
And I was, so we're going to make them both, co-winners of second place. I was like, oh, those two authors are going to be awfully proud of themselves. And they said, so second and third place goes to Aquaman and George. I'm like, what?
There you go.
And we were supposed to read our stories, and the man did his. And then they said, "George, you want to come up here and read yours?" I said, "No," because it involved getting up in front of all these people and reading my story. And my story was, the story where Scootaloo's dead and Sweetie Belle's writing this letter about her. And I said, "No," because I'd get about partway through and I'd have to hand the phone off to somebody else. So here, you read that. So second place. Okay, shared second place. I was feeling pretty good about myself, so I may go back this year. I don't know.
Well, you should go back.
If you do go, you'll be able to say hi to a few of us, because I know that at very least a good handful of us are considering going. So
yeah, but for now, however, we are out of time.
It's true. George, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and join us today.
Oh, the end is near, and so we face the final curtain.
Everyone be sure to tune in next week where we have Rainbow Dashi joining us. They are a fandom personality who's also going to be community guests at BabsCon this upcoming year with us. So we're looking more than forward to getting up close and personnel. Don't look into that too hard. Anyway, thank you everyone for tuning in. Your bartenders for this evening have been a non-pencil.
Wow.
Enigmatic Otaku.
Springfield Gorg.
Flam and Orfer.
Yes.
Ravage.
What?
Milk.
Yes.
Our amazing guest, George.
Oh, me.
Yes, you! And I am Flutter Priest. See you guys next week. Bye-bye!
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
Oh, right, I hit the... I'm the one doing it.
Yeah, you. You're so garbage.
Were you about to say your things you wish were never recorded?
Bye.